Welcome to Her Subconscious Blueprint, your no BS space for subconscious healing, bold breakthroughs, and becoming the woman who actually lives the life she dreams about. I'm Jen Boyd, hypnotherapist, mindset coach, and your new healing hype girl. Today, we're talking about something, it seems subtle on the surface, but it actually is draining your power in ways you probably didn't even realize. We're talking about over-explaining. We're talking about defending your healing, defending your opinion, defending who you are. We're talking about feeling like your life is constantly on trial every time you make a decision. Every time you make a decision that doesn't align with someone else's expectations. And if you really let this sink in, what I'm about to say might change the way you move forever. Your growth is not up for approval. You do not need to defend it, justify it, soften it, shrink it, or water it down so that it feels safe for everyone else around you. The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment your energy shifts back into your own hands. All of that mental space you've been using to rehearse conversations, to build your defense before anyone even questions you, to anticipate judgment and manage other people's discomfort, all of that energy becomes available for something else. It becomes available for your expansion. It becomes available for your dreams. It becomes available for your healing. And most of us have no idea how much bandwidth we're burning trying to make our lives make sense to other people. I want you to think about the last time you made a decision that felt right in your body, but uncomfortable in someone else's eyes. Maybe you left a job. Maybe you started something new. Maybe you invested in yourself. Maybe you ended a relationship. Maybe you just set boundaries. And before anyone even said anything, your mind started building a case. You started thinking about how you would explain if someone questioned you. You thought about how to make it sound reasonable. You thought about how to frame it so it wouldn't come across as selfish. You thought about what you would say if someone didn't understand. And here's the thing that's so wild. Sometimes no one even asks. Sometimes the entire courtroom is only in your head. Somewhere along the way, we learned that approval equals safety. We learned that if someone disagrees with us, that means we're wrong. We learned that if someone is uncomfortable with our growth, we're responsible for fixing the discomfort of them. And if you grew up in an environment where you had to explain yourself constantly, this pattern runs deep, girl. If you had parents who questioned every decision, who made you justify your wants, who challenged your autonomy, then you likely learned that your existence required explanations. You learned that in order to stay safe, you needed to make choices that made sense to everyone else. And this is not just a mindset issue. This is neurological. When you grow up in an environment where disagreement led to conflict, withdrawal, criticism, or emotional distance, your nervous system wires that experience into survival coding. The amygdala, the part of your brain that is responsible for detecting threat, it does not differentiate between a tiger chasing you and someone raising their voice in disapproval. Social rejection activates the same pain centers in your brain as physical pain. This means when someone questions you, your body can respond as if you are under attack, even if logically you know you're not. And if you were the peacemaker, the good girl, the one who kept things smooth, your nervous system likely chose the fawn response. Not flight, not fight, not freeze, but fawn. Fawn appeases, it overexplains, it softens your tone, and it adds more context. It makes sure that they understand, because somewhere deep in your subconscious, you equated clarity with confidence and conflict with danger. So over-explaining, it is not weakness. It is a survival strategy that it once worked. It kept you safe in environments where approval mattered. But what kept you safe as a child will keep you small as an adult. And the work now is teaching your nervous system that disagreement does not equal abandonment. Disapproval does not equal danger. And someone misunderstanding you certainly does not mean you are unsafe. And that conditioning, it doesn't disappear when you become an adult. It just shows up in new ways. It shows up when you are over-explaining your boundaries. It shows up when you over-explain your no's. It shows up when you say yes and then justify why you can't give more. It shows up in meetings when you give too much context before sharing an idea. It shows up in relationships when you soften your truth so it lands more gently. Every time you do it, your nervous system is trying to secure safety. Your body is saying, if they approve this, I'm safe. If they understand this, I'm safe. But here's the truth that will probably sting a little. You're allowed to be safe without being approved of. You're allowed to grow without being understood. You're allowed to change without explaining yourself. Being misunderstood, it is uncomfortable. It activates the same old fear that maybe you will be left or rejected or talked about or labeled as selfish. But discomfort is not danger. Disagreement is not abandonment. Someone else's confusion is not your responsibility to resolve. There's a difference between harming someone and disappointing them. Harm violates integrity. Disappointment simply means someone had expectations that no longer align with your truth. And when you begin to grow, you will outgrow the roles. You will outgrow dynamics. You will outgrow the versions of yourself that kept everything smooth. You will outgrow people and friends and relationships. And that shift will ripple. Some people will celebrate it and some people will question it. Some people will not understand it at all. Your job is not to manage their emotional process. Your job is to stay aligned with your own. And when you don't believe that, you will unconsciously sabotage your own expansion. You will hesitate on decisions that could transform your life because you don't want to deal with the conversations. You will stay smaller than you're meant to be because it's easier than navigating someone else's reaction. You will water down your dreams so they're easier to defend. And the worst part is, you won't even realize you're doing it. I remember early in my healing journey making a decision that felt expansive and aligned. It was one of those choices where my body felt a full yes, but my mind immediately went into defense mode. Before I even hit submit, I was already thinking about what I would say if someone questioned it. I was already preparing the justification. I was already building the explanation. And in that moment, I caught myself. No one had accused me of anything. No one had criticized me, but I was already defending myself against an imaginary jury. That was when I realized how much of my life had been filtered through other people's comfort zones. Let me just slow that moment down for you because this is where it gets real. I remember sitting in my car and just staring at my phone after making a decision. My heart was beating faster than it should have been for something that felt right. My body felt expansive and tight at the same time. Expansive because I knew I was in alignment, but tight because I was already bracing for a reaction. I hadn't even told anyone yet. No one had even questioned me yet. No one had criticized me. But in my mind, I could hear the cross-examination. I could hear the subtle, "Are you sure?" I could hear that seems like a bad decision. I could hear, "Why would you do that?" And I was already drafting responses. I was already building a PowerPoint presentation in my head to defend something my soul had already decided. And I caught myself. I remember thinking, who am I to argue with right now? There is no one in the car with me. There is no jury. There's no judge. This is no one asking me to justify this. And that was the moment it clicked. I wasn't responding to people. I was responding to the programming. The awareness changed everything. Because once you see the courtroom in your own head, you cannot unsee it. And when you realize you are both the defendant and the prosecutor, you finally have the power to adjourn the trial. It looks like saying, I just need a little space, when what you really mean is, I need more emotional depth. It looks like adding 3 paragraphs of reassurance before expressing a boundary. It looks like explaining why you're tired instead of simply just saying, I'm not available tonight. It looks like cushioning your honesty so much that by the time it lands, it barely resembles the truth that you originally felt. And over time, that creates resentment, because every time you over-explain, you abandon yourself just a little bit. You dilute your clarity, you shrink your voice, and then you wonder why you felt unseen. But it's hard to be seen when you're constantly translating yourself into something more palatable. Healthy relationships can tolerate clarity. Mature love can handle directness. If your truth requires an essay to survive, that is information. And I say that with compassion, not judgment, because the goal is not to bulldoze people. The goal is to trust that your honesty does not need padding to be valid. And I know I'm not alone in that. I know you've done this too. You've probably delayed something because you didn't want to explain it. You've probably chosen the more reasonable option because it required less justification. You've probably stayed quiet when you wanted to speak because you didn't feel like defending your truth. And here's the thing. Your life, it's not on trial. You do not need a defense attorney for your growth. Your healing is not a group decision. So how you break this pattern, it starts with awareness. You have to notice when you're over-explaining. Notice the extra words that you add. Notice how your tone changes. Notice how your voice speeds up. Notice when you start the sentence with, I just, or because. And if you need to prove something, that awareness alone is powerful because it pulls the pattern out of autopilot. The next step is permission. And this one is huge because most women have never consciously given themselves permission to grow without approval. So I want you to actually say this. Even if it feels awkward, I want you to say, I give myself permission to grow without their approval. Let your body feel that sentence. Notice if your chest tightens. Notice if your mind argues. That resistance is the old programming. That resistance is the part of you that equates disagreement with danger. And every time you choose yourself anyways, you are rewiring that belief. You also have to accept something uncomfortable. You are going to disappoint people. Growth changes dynamics. Boundaries shift roles. Healing exposes patterns. When you stop over-explaining, some people will feel uncomfortable. Not because you're wrong, but because your clarity forces them to confront their own lack of it. And that discomfort does not mean you've done something bad. It means you've done something brave. If you're someone who has always been the peacemaker, this will feel especially challenging for you. Silence, it feels rude. Directness, it feels harsh. Boundaries will feel mean. But what's actually happening is that your nervous system is recalibrating. You're teaching it that safety does not require approval. You're teaching it that you can survive someone being confused. You're teaching it that you can survive someone disagreeing. One practical tool that I love is the 3-second pause. The next time someone questions your choice, don't rush into explanation. Take a breath, let there be space, and then answer simply and clearly. You can say, because it feels right for me, or that's what I've decided. And then stop talking. That pause interrupts the automatic defense response and signals confidence. And what you'll often notice is that most people, they don't push further. It's when we over-explain that we unintentionally invite debate. Over-explaining is often rooted in guilt, and guilt is usually rooted in conditioning. Many of us were taught that we are lovable when we're accommodating. We were taught that we are safe when we are agreeable. So when we choose ourselves, it triggers an old fear. But choosing yourself is not selfish, it's self-responsibility. And you're not required to shrink so others can feel comfortable. You are not obligated to carry shame for your healing. So try to journal on this and ask, where am I explaining myself out of guilt? What would it feel like to speak my truth without apology? Let yourself answer honestly. You may discover that you've been living in defense mode for years. And here's what happens when you stop. Your energy, it shifts. You move from defense into creation. Instead of rehearsing conversations, you build your future. Instead of managing perceptions, you manage your peace. Instead of shrinking, you expand. And expansion feels different. It feels grounded. It feels steady. It feels calm. It does not feel like frantic or over-justifying. This is not about being dismissive or shutting down communication. Healthy communication is powerful. Sharing your heart is beautiful. But explaining from fear is very different than explaining from clarity. Your body knows the difference. Fear, it feels tight and rushed. Clarity feels steady and simple. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. You will start to trust your yeses. You will start to trust your nos. You will start to realize that your life does not require unanimous approval. And the people who are meant for you will not need an essay. They will respect your clarity. They will honor your boundaries. They will understand that your growth is self-authority. So this week, choose one area where you normally would over-explain and experiment with saying less. Let your decisions stand on their own. Let your boundaries breathe. Let the silence sit. Notice how it feels to not defend yourself. Notice how much lighter you feel when you're not constantly managing other people's perceptions and emotions and reactions. Your growth is not meant to fit neatly inside someone else's comfort zone. It's meant to stretch you. It's meant to evolve you. It's meant to elevate you. And elevation requires confidence. It requires self-authorization. It requires the willingness to be misunderstood. You do not owe anyone an apology for your healing. Your life is not on trial. And the more you embody the truth, the more powerful you become. I'm so full of love and gratitude that I get to share my story with you. This is Her Subconscious Blueprint, where we don't just chase the dreams, we become them. And remember, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. So go out and be that version of you today. Much love and gratitude. I will see you next time.